Hello and welcome to this SGS webinar addressing Trust but Verify Beyond Self-Attestation. I would like to start the webinar in, let's say, 30 seconds or maybe a minute to give more participants the chance to log on and log in. And I see that more and more people are pouring in. So bear with me for a couple of more seconds. And I see that still people are joining and logging in. So that's very, very encouraging. And that's the reason why I would like to wait another couple of maybe 10, 15 seconds. And then we start officially our today's webinar. Okay, so by now, the last people may have logged in or not. Let's see. Anyway, the most important thing is I would like to say a very, very heartfelt welcome to today's webinar, Trust but Verify, Beyond Self-Attestation. We at SGS have conducted a couple of webinars already about AI, and obviously this is a continuation of our webinar series. My name is Willy Fabricius, and I'm the Global Head for Strategy and Business Development here at SGS in Business Assurance. And I would also like to give my good friend Arman the opportunity to introduce himself. Arman, go ahead.
Hello, I'm very happy and glad to be here with you, Willy, and also all the audience. So my name is Arman Niranfar. I'm head of AI department at Certix, which we recently actually joined the SGS big and nice family. Very glad to be here with you and all.
Arman, thank you very much for your time and looking forward to this very, very exciting webinar. So a quick overview over the agenda. Of course, there will be some kind of introduction. There will be some kind of reference to the AI regulatory landscape. And we will talk about regulations versus best practice and that moving towards compliance. We will talk about AI governance and obviously the AI lifecycle. That said, we would like to go ahead with a couple of poll questions. And please feel free to select the most appropriate answer that is applicable to you and your organization. Please note that these answers are obviously totally anonymous and will not be shared with the public, but it gives us some great overview of who is attending and what kind of interest you and your organization may have. In the meantime, please note that the actual presentation will last about 35, 45 minutes. So in about 42 minutes or so, the actual presentation will stop, but then we will have a Q&A. And please put your questions into the Q&A section already now, so that then Arman or myself will be able to answer those questions. So now let's have a quick look at this first question. How big is your organization or your company? Revenue in million of USD. And we do understand that it looks like the majority of people are actually, people attending this webinar are actually not coming out of the United States, but coming from literally around the globe. So thank you very much for that as well. So let's have a quick look at the result of that poll. So 24% were are working with or for organizations of less than 10 people. And then the next and a similar number is between 100 and 500. And then 500 people or more is represented by about 43% of the attendees. The next poll question is very similar, but this time instead of revenue, please look at the dimension of number of people, because that is also obviously a good indicator in terms of revenue versus people. Again, a couple of seconds, because we would really like to spend more time on presenting rather than polling. But nonetheless, I think this is still very, very important indeed. So I'm counting down. 15, 14, no, just kidding. Let's see, a couple of more seconds for people to press the right button. And then we take it from there. And here are the answers. 16. Oh, that's quite amazing. Very, very same numbers in terms of less than 10, between 10 and 100, and between 100 and 500, and then more than 500 people, 50%. Excellent. So a little bit about SGS, and I know that many of you attending today's webinar have attended in the past similar webinars by SGS. So I apologize for being a little bit boring, because we always talk about the same kind of thing, that in 1878, SGS was founded as a grain inspection authority, inspecting grain transported from France to England. And food safety is still one of our large business units. But obviously, Arman and I are coming from the digital world, where we are verifying, testing devices for their information security posture, AI systems for their security posture, and so on and so forth. But we have about 99,200 people, roughly speaking 100,000. And obviously in December 2024, SGS acquired Sotex, the company that is being represented here today by Arman. And we will talk about that later on a little bit. So the next slide is, so what's the difference? SGS difference? Well, we have a global network, self-explanatory, with 2,600 offices globally. The quality of service is outstanding. Our industry expertise, which is obviously highlighted by the fact that we either hire people with the necessary expertise or buy companies with the necessary expertise. And digital innovation is in our DNA from the get-go. A couple of reference projects and clients we have the privilege to work with. And then we go to the next poll, and I promise this is one of the last polls we have. Please indicate whether your company is currently certified to ISO 9001, ISO 14001, ISO 27001, or similar. We do understand that, especially in the cybersecurity world, the information security world, there might be other frameworks, for example, SOC 2, and we do know that then in that case it would be not a certification but an attestation. But let's be a little bit flexible with the terms here, or whether your company is certified to ISO 22301, the business continuity. And the answers are rolling in, and people are still answering. So I would like to wait a couple of more seconds before we close that poll and share the overarching results with the community. And here we go. 60% of companies or representatives on this call are working for companies that are ISO 9001 certified. That's very important and very good to know, because we will circle back to that later on. 14,001, the environmental management system, 13%. 27, also very important in this context where we are talking about AI assurance, 26%. And nobody is certified to business continuity, which is a little bit surprising, but no, it's not surprising. So let's talk a little bit about the regulatory landscape and international standards. Arman, over to you.
Thanks a lot, really, for all the introduction. So nowadays we hear a lot about AI regulations, regional law, and the different concepts like safe AI, responsible AI, or ethics in AI. But in order to better understand what exactly is happening around us, it's better to distinguish between three different activities. The first type of activities are laws and regulations, and there are numerous activities around the globe. As the global benchmark, you may have already heard of EU AI Act, which actually establishes strict and stringent requirements about how to develop, deploy, or even use AI systems. in the North America, the situation is a little bit different. Even though in Canada we have AI and Data Act and it's already passed, but still the question is that when it will be become in force. In the United States, although from president to president situation may change, still states are being proactive, and now they are regulating how AI shall be used or developed or deployed. For example, we have in Colorado anti-discrimination in AI, which basically focuses on the same principles as in the UI Act, for example, fairness. We have NYC bias audit law, which is in principle covering using automation for hiring, recruiting, like for example, screening the CVs and so on. But since AI is also a technology that helps us with automation, this also goes under the same umbrella. We have also Utah AI Policy Act, which talks about more about AI liability. Again, UI Act and similar frameworks, they are focusing on the same principles. China has taken quite a different approach. You know that EUI Act is a kind of horizontal piece of law that does not specify exactly what should be done in each sector or industry. However, China has taken a vertical approach, speaking of what needs to be done per application or per industry. As the next type of activities, which are kind of enabler to implement these regulations, are frameworks. And one of the most important frameworks that every day and these days everybody talks about it is the NIST risk management framework, AI risk management framework. And they have also addressed the generative AI portfolio inside that. These frameworks are meant to help organizations to build their competency and compliance according to regulations. However, still there is a missing point, especially if you talk to the developers, the data scientists, AI specialists. They are always talking about how they need to implement, how they need to adjust their day-to-day life activities, MLOps activities, and incorporate standards or norms that they show their compliance to these laws and regulations. Fortunately, we have a lot of activities around the globe from different standardization committee, and their role is to enable us perform technical implementation, testing, and assessments. In particular, we have Joint Technical Committee 1, Subcommittee 42 from ISO, we have IEEE, and we have Sense-Elect, which is actually mandated by European Commission to provide technical standards according to the EUI Act. On the other hand, SC42 is taking a more horizontal approach, going to different dimensions, different pillars of AI trustworthiness. IEEE has focused more on responsible AI and provides beneficial requirements or recommendations of how to make AI transparent or ethical. We Certix, we are Swiss delegate in those committees, which means that we are helping these committees to develop better and more actionable standardization items. So now that we learned about differences between regulations, frameworks, and technical standards, let's take a look at today's trends and what is actually foreseen for almost near future. We see that the regulations and law and standards are actually now converging to the same principles. As I already mentioned, EUI Act is based on several objectives and high-level requirements. And already I showed you that different states in the US, they are speaking of the same principles. The AI and Data Act in Canada is also speaking of the same principles. One very nice study that has been done is by NIST and other partners, that they try to make a crosswalk between the NIST AI risk management framework to other regulations and law and frameworks and so on and so forth. And interestingly, but not surprisingly, there is a lot of overlap between these principles, which means that if you start to implement AI management system that I will speak up about it in later slides, you may also be quite a lot compliant with the framework of the one that proposed by NIST. Another trend that we see is that now there are more companies that are shooting for compliance with the technical standards. You see a couple of examples here, and SGS is also a player here to certify against AI management system for 2001. And this is not always because you are legally mandated to implement those, but sometimes there are B2B requirements. And just in parentheses, recently Microsoft has also issued a piece of note requiring in certain applications compliance with ISO 42001, for example. So we already learned about the fact that regulations and standards are more and more getting accepted by the AI community, but still one of the very first questions that many AI providers and deployers ask is how these are actually different from the best practices that they are used to follow within their organizations. We see that we know that in many companies there are very expert developers, data scientists, machine learning engineers that they believe they know what they're doing. They know about the details of their processes. But the question is that is the process that I'm considering in my own company as best practice is acknowledged as best practice within another company? Are we following all the same principles? On the contrary, we see regulations that they are high level, they are not too technical, but they also establish some legal requirements and common baseline. However, the language used in these regulations sometimes are tough to follow by these developers. As an example, the regulator may ask for having high quality data for both training and while in operation. And the developer may claim that, yes, I clean the data and I check for bias before I use that in my AI lifecycle and pipeline. But now the question is that, is it enough? Cleaning data, what exactly it means? What are the characteristics of having high quality data? What do we mean by completeness, representativeness, timeliness of the data? And here is where these technical standards are helping us a lot by making now a technical baseline. For example, by establishing a common language and terminology, by proposing, recommending, or requiring certain frameworks, or just mentioning, recommending, or requiring against certain measures or metrics to how, for example, the bias within your data needs to be calculated. Even though we have all these technical standards, but still navigating from best practices that is already accepted within companies that they are developing AI services and bridging it to the regulatory frameworks is still, there is some work to do, and still there is some gap. Good news is that it's been 3 years that we are working to bridge this gap, and I will show you how technical standards can be linked to regulatory frameworks to ensure that your best practice is also now compliant. So here I've taken as an example EUAC, the high-level objectives. But as I mentioned again, the same principles more or less exist in all regulatory frameworks. For example, focusing on risk, AI risk aspects that are different from cybersecurity aspects. They are different from conventional quality management. We have other more AI-related topics here, for example, robustness of an AI system and so on and so forth. If you look at these objectives and the standards that I'm showing below, and just again in parentheses, here I'm showing only 12 standards, but there are actually way more items either published or under development by ISO SC 42. So let's take an example here. Risk management system. Of course, we need to understand how to manage AI risk. And if we take a look at the standardization landscape, we already have quite a couple of standards that we can start taking a look at it. We have actually 40001, which is auditable, certifiable. We have guidance on risk management, the second item. We can even get into more details and learn about how we need to conduct an impact assessment. And AI governance is, of course, there to help us to establish an overall AI governance within our company. Another example is data and data governance. Here we have two items, more than two items. I explain how. The data quality 5255 is actually 6-part series of standards. This starts from establishing common knowledge and terminology and ensuring that we understand the concepts. And even it goes down to the details of even what are the best visualization for data. How can we ensure that the stakeholder understand these visualizations? If you are further interested into concepts like bias and fair decisions, we have, of course, technical standards that enable us to implement those principles, for example, ethical AI, responsible AI, and also to certify against, to test against. For example, the first one, again, ensures that we understand the sources of data bias, and I'm speaking of 24027, while the second one shows us the way to treat the data bias. The list goes on and on about accuracy, robustness, and cybersecurity. We have a couple of items that help us a lot in ensuring that implementation of our AI service, our AI product is aligned with regulatory frameworks, but also it follows internationally acceptable best practices. For transparency, we have the same concept, and even I can further go into the detail of how we can establish human oversight within our processes around using AI system. So after we looked at this connection between the regulatory frameworks and standards, the first question that you may ask is that do we need AI governance simply for compliance? The answer is obviously compliance is yes, could be one of your objectives, but there are other objectives that you can follow in implementing AI governance within your organization. The first one is building internal trust. There are some studies that I'm basically quoting from those that conducted these surveys. Many enterprises these days are essentially stuck in experimentation because they don't trust the value of of AI, the security of AI, the ethics that can be violated or followed by AI. They simply don't know how to assess that, how to ensure that it's safe enough to deploy it in real world. The other topic to discuss here is how can we build external trust? Of course, the survey shows that 85% of business owners, they believe that if other providers, they follow specific rules, they are more willing to invest in using AI or working with these AI providers. And a combination of these two basically lead us to have better business growth. So let me speak a little bit more about one of the items that is important, and that one is how we can earn external trust, which you can think of B2B or B2C. And I'm now here referring to a study recently conducted by Swiss universities, and there are some interesting numbers, but again, they are not much surprising, at least me. So 81% of the participants in this survey, they mentioned that they preferred using AI when a certification label is there. 71% of the participants mentioned that they are more likely to accept an AI decision or recommendation if it had already been certified or it again comes with a certification label. 63% preferred certification label in high-stake scenarios, like the one that has direct impact on our health, on our property, and so on and so forth. And 86%, they emphasize the impartiality and independence of the auditors, of course, beside their technical knowledge of how to conduct these technical assessment or audit. So if we are already convinced that AI governance will help us to have business growth, to build internal trust and earn the external trust, there are several steps that we need to follow. The first one is actually awareness. And there are some questions that we need to ask ourselves whether we are doing it right. The first question that's when it comes to awareness is that, do we have the right access to these regulations, standards, and best practices? And second, do we have the right interpretation of how they actually need to be implemented? The second phase is, of course, we can prepare ourselves, but there are strategical decisions to be made. And these questions will address what are the changes that we need to implement in our management system, in risk management, as the one that is governing all the activities within a company. What are the new processes or new changes that need to be implemented into existing processes? And do I have the right test plan? And I come back to testing in later slides, because every day we see more and more problems. There are so many principles that you want to test against, you want to verify against, and you don't know exactly which one you should go first. The second step, of course, is you may have already competent people within your team, and you can run some self-assessment project, and then you self-attest your compliance with those best practices. But again, from an outsider, the question is that to what extent this self-attestation and self-assessment should be reliable or credible. The better solution is to ask for independent third-party assessment. And that starts from gap analysis going down to evaluation of your compliance or the way that you are implementing your AI and data lifecycle. That also involves activities in your management, and then finally even technical testing. Here the question is that who can really do that these days? Against what exactly we are able to certify or at least test my AI system capabilities, and what are the benefits? The benefits we already spoke of. So as you see, majority of the stakeholders, they believe that a certification label, whether or not is an accredited certification, might help to build more trust. So, of course, if you can find an accredited testing, inspection, and certification body, that would be the best option. If they already know about technical standards, how they can be bridged to the best practices and regulation, that would be, again, way better. And again, there is no doubt that if you can follow and find those providers, service providers, and you come up with a successful certification project, then you can really stand out in the market. So speaking of awareness as the very first step of your AI governance and, if you want, compliance journey, there are certain topics that you need to, again, dig further. Your familiarity with the regulations, whether it's AI regulations or other industrial regulations, for example, those that we can find in finance or robot machinery, medical devices, and so on and so forth. The second one is how can you smoothly, without too much trouble, you can implement your AI management system and risk management. And there are a couple of very nice resources. already internationally accepted by 190 plus countries. For data and data governance, we have the same idea. There are standards and norms that can help you better understand what are the exact activities. And they are not only for your developers, but it can also be adjusted toward the need of the management. We have transparency and explainability as one of the hot topics of today's discussions between developers, especially. Uh, I give you an example. Should we implement explainability for every single AI system? If so, do we need to implement a global or local explainability? These are the questions that can be answered if we refer to these norms. We have again bias and fairness, as we discussed. There are hot topics in ethics of AI. And last but not least, of course, safety and reliability of AI systems. Which again, there are a series of references that, of course, you can do self-education, but good news is that at the same time, we have also prepared all those materials in our so-called AI awareness training programs that we focus on industries. We try to maximize it, to customize it as much as possible to maximize the benefit of you. We tailor it toward the need of your employees, whether they are developers, they may like to understand more about the standard measures and metrics, for example, for data quality. Rather, for the management, they like to understand what are the best data management framework. And of course, hands-on exercises are already implemented. If you like, you can scan this QR code and dig further into the detail of the value that these courses bring to your company, including how long it takes. Good news is that we want to be pragmatic and you can think of 1 day to 4 days long of these courses would bring so much value within your organization. So here is one poll. Willy, would you like to take over?
Sure. Thank you. Very, very good presentation. I like it. So here's our next poll question. Is your organization planning to implement an ISO 42001 management system? Or are you planning it within the next few months? Are you not planning it? Are you planning to implement it by the end of the year or within 2 to 3 years? Or we have already implemented an ISO IEC 42001 AIMS, AI management system, and we are looking for a certification body. So these are the possible answers. Please let us know what you think. What is your current timeline? If you are planning or not planning to implement an ISO 42001 conforming AIMS. While we are waiting for the attendees to answer the poll question, I would like to share with you that SGS has been accredited by the Singaporean accreditation body to perform accredited ISO 42001 management system certification audits. And we have been very, very proud and very delighted to have been witnessed by the Singaporean accreditation body while auditing Chennai Airport, the airport in Singapore, for implementing their AI management system conforming to 42001. And that certificate has been handed over just a couple of days ago. So let's move to the answer, or not to the answer, to the result of this poll. And we see that 58.3% of respondents have not implemented and have no plans to implement an AIMS. And that's okay. And I think we are still at a very early journey of the recognition that an ISO management system has indeed huge benefits for organizations. very similar to an ISO 9001 quality management system or an environmental management system. Are there costs associated with the implementation and maintenance of such management systems? Absolutely yes. But let's not forget, one major aspect of those management systems is de-risking. We have heard already from Arman this list of never-ending regulations, this list of never-ending concerns and maybe even problems associated with the implementation and maintenance of AI. A governance system based on ISO 42001 will certainly help an organization do de-risk these areas and have a better, solid system in place. And then coming back to the poll, we see that there is obviously a quite large percentage of the attendees that plan to implement such a system within the next 2 to 3 years. That said, Arman, back to you.
Thank you, Willy. So one of the most critical steps in the AI governance journey is actually risk assessment, which was already mentioned by Willy, and conducting gap analysis to ensure that what we have and what we do not have. And that involves several activities. So the first one is to understand that whether we are aligned with acceptable frameworks or whether we are aligned or how far we are from having a management system and a risk management that ensures that we have good plans to mitigate the AI risk, and we are prepared to address the upcoming and emerging risk of AI systems. The second one is to take a few seconds and think about what we are doing actually in our AI lifecycle and data lifecycle frameworks. Are the processes that are involved in our day-to-day activity for MLOps, DevOps, AI ops these days are aligned with the standard activities? If at least the processes are there, we can ensure that, well, if there is an emerging risk, it would be easier to address and close the gaps. The second item that I want to highlight is technical documentation. There are several reasons that we need to have technical documentation. If we ask data scientists, well, I'm talking of senior data scientists, AI experts, specialists, machine learning engineers, they are doing a lot of technical documentation. They are maybe even having comments and documentation within their code. They are keeping these documentation in GitHub repositories and so on and so forth. But the technical documentation to ensure the trustworthy use and development of AI goes a little bit beyond that. We are talking about rationals on the decisions that we have taken during the AI lifecycle. For example, why using a particular AI provider and not the other one? Why do we need to use a particular architecture or AI model, but not the other one? These will come up with, again, testing and documenting the results of the test, which may not be a common practice in today's MLOps that we know. If you like, we can, again, help you to analyze your risks and identify potential gaps that exist in different levels of your activities, AI-related activities, whether it is inside your management system, whether it's in your AI processes, or we are speaking of technicalities, which test you are applying, if you are conducting enough research and search before implementing. These are the aspects that we can help you with. And again, we focus on the AI. Of course, there are so many aspects. I'm sure that the attendees here are coming from different industries that they either already are using AI or developing AI, or they're thinking of using this fabulous technology. Wherever you are, we of course focus on the AI, but align with the industry in which you are functioning. So speaking of AI audit and technical assessment, the There are actually a lot to do here, and I don't want to essentially basically bring a fear here, but I'm more on the cheer side here. We know what should be conducted here. From the management system perspective, there are several aspects that you need to take a deeper look at. And if you are ready, you can also ask for internal audits. You can also seek for independent, impartial audit and technical assessment. For example, one of the most critical items is continuous improvement, especially when we are talking about AI. AI is evolving. Taking a look at even the regulations, for example, EUI Act as the global benchmark, you may not see the generative AI in the very first draft back in 2021 April. There was almost no mention of general purpose AI, generative AI, so there was not even a consideration of the risks that might be specific to using these LLM-enabled chatbots and so on and so forth. For example, hallucination. So continuous improvement is going to be one of the critical aspects, specifically if we're talking about AI systems. AI lifecycle also is quite a little bit could be different from what you are used to, the standard ones. It always starts with inception. When you're thinking about the business, when we are thinking about the stakeholder needs, we need to first identify them and we need to analyze the risk that involves according to the intended purpose of the AI system. Again, if we refer to experts, the expert data scientists, they may always start with design and development. And there might be some disconnection between the business owner, the risk managers, and the legal team and the data scientists. We are here to ensure that there is no gap. We are here to ensure that these gaps can be breached with use of technical standards to ensure that the communication between different teams, especially in bigger companies, are kind of smooth and doable. In testing and inspection, we see a majority, a vast number of items and concepts. The very first question is that, do we have the best or the relevant test plan? What these test plans they should include? Should they be aligned with the risk of AI, risk of the scope in which the AI is used, risk associated with the end user, with other stakeholders? So a comprehensive test plan will cover all those aspects. Then how can I ensure that I cover enough of the real world scenarios and situations? Do I cover the corner cases? More importantly, even if I know about the corner cases, how do I measure them? What are the KPIs? What are the thresholds before which or after which I would say that the system is reliable enough, or no, there is no trust and there might be some reputational damage, legal damage, or so on and so forth. Data quality is again another hot topic. We know that we need to have high quality in our data. Well, we have this famous saying that if you don't have your output of AI models and systems are as good as the quality of your input data, and they are basically defined by several principles. But exactly which are they? Are they do we have the measures and metrics to measure them and to ensure that we are compliant with the minimum standards or not? Bias and fairness, another hot topic. Different metrics are out there. If you do a Google search, I guarantee that there would be hundreds of thousands of search results of different metrics based on which you can measure the fairness of your data and the output of the AI model. Which ones are the best ones? Which one is aligned with your risk, with the context of the AI system and the stakeholder needs, of course. Explainability, accuracy, and robustness, again, fall in the same category. What are the KPIs? How do I need to measure them? Is there any tool that can encompass all of these measures and metrics and can be well integrated with your today's MLOps? We are actually here to, again, help you with identifying your needs, to perform these technical assessments, and to ensure that you are on the track for AI governance. and hopefully compliance and a certification project. So I spoke of the AI and data lifecycle. Here I want to, as an example, show you the standard AI lifecycle, different activities that is involved in each stage. And this is actually not the full list. Unfortunately, the slide was not big enough and I needed to use a certain font size. In the inception phase, we will focus on analyzing your mission, where you are, what you want, where you want to go. What are the risks according to the intended purpose of your AI system, again, your business, in which region even you operate from a legal perspective? Who are the stakeholders? What are their needs? What are their experience or expertise? Because that's also very relevant if you want to analyze your explainability, when you want to verify and validate your AI system. And one item here is the last one in inception, change management. So especially in big corporates, I'm 1% sure that there must be sophisticated risk management and management system. But when we are now using, developing, or deploying AI systems, there are new risks and there are frameworks that they are, even though speaking the same language of other management system, but there are nuances. There are so many activities to ensure smooth integration of your AI risk within already existing risk management system that you have. We are, of course, here again to help in different perspectives, whether it's a gap analysis or audit of those systems. In design and development, we here are speaking of more technicalities, like, again, for example, data quality metrics. How can we really ensure the training of our AI system is safe and will result in beneficial AI in one word. Speaking of verification and validation, we are still on the testing side, setting the objectives, the thresholds aligned with the KPIs. Deployment also involves several activities. How to ensure that while we deploy, we have included the transparency requirements, how to communicate with our stakeholders and users. For example, do I need to mention explicitly that this chatbot is not a human, but rather that's an AI enabled? There are some nuances here and tricks here, because if you have a simple chatbot that simply selects among some database already verified responses, maybe there are less risk. But if it's an LLM-based enabled chatbot that can openly discuss possible solutions with a customer, it's not a simple customer service, but also providing and or improvising solutions, there might be more risk, and we need to take immediate action to understand the risk and then to address all of them. The same story goes on for operations, monitoring, and retirement. So if you're already convinced that there must be some independent, impartial third-party assessment with a potential certification, because you want to stand out in the market, to earn the external trust, or to simply be ahead of the regulations that are upcoming, or even today, we know that EUI Act, for example, in EU at least is there. So you may still today start to think of these kind of services. We have made a clear path of the activities that you require to go through, and we will be with you. The first one is to ensure that we know about the right scope of your business, the AI system, and it starts with a scoping session. We can call it a workshop. It could be a couple of hours of discussions to understand better where you stand today, from where you want to start, or whether you are even ready to go further into this journey. We have also built an assessment schema, which is composed of whatever was told during this presentation. Regulations, where they are applicable, standards, how they can be used, whether they establish some requirements, or they bring us some good recommendation as best practices. Based on that, we perform a gap analysis for you to again understand more technically where you stand today and whether you are ready to start an actual official certification project. If there is major gaps, we of course we will deliver a report of points that turn out to be non-compliant. But if there are no major gaps, we can start the certification, assessment and certification process. There are two different paths that we can think of. One of them focuses on detailed documentation review and audits as usual. That's we essentially audit your processes from the management system down to the AI activities according to the AI lifecycle that you follow. And the other path is more about testing and inspection. You may have already some tests, of course, that would be nice. We will review. We may also ask for additional tests, and we can also ask for inspection of those tests. As a result of those two separate paths, there are some reports, and here is time to consolidate those to understand whether first your management system and processes are well in place, and are you doing the right testing with the results for the AI product and the service that you have. Then if the decision comes, there are some gaps still, so still you will benefit from a detailed report, and then we would be, of course, glad to deliver you a certificate certifying that you are compliant with a certain regulation and standards. Here I wanted to show, so the point here, the point of this slide is not to go into the detail of what needs to be tested for robustness, fairness, and explainability. I just simply want to show the complexity that these days we face. If you refer to open source libraries, there are tons of them. If you refer to proprietary models, there are tons of them. But the question is that how you can choose the best KPI, the best testing method. And again, here, we are really glad that today we are able to help you with this critical task. To conclude my presentation, we spoke of AI regulation and standardization that are actually evolving, and still we will see more and more coming. We know that the AI governance journey is not straightforward, but we have done whatever that we could do during these 3 years, and we will do more. We are committed to do more to ensure your smooth transition toward AI compliance and governance. And testing, again, is one of the services that we are proud today that we are able to deliver these services to you. What you need to do is to start today, understand the roadmap that you need to follow. You may want to select your certification partner, and we'll be happy if you contact us. So really, I think this is your part. If you want to give some word about SGS Academy.
Sure. Wow, that was very good. Thank you so much, Arman. That was a very good presentation, and I definitely enjoyed it. So within SGS, we also have the SGS Academy. And I would like to point out that there are a couple of courses we have available. Those publicly available courses are related to ISO 42001, the requirements. And if you have, if you are located in the United States, please select that QR code close to where it says US. And if you are really close, if you are in Canada, please select the CA QR code. But as I said, those courses are publicly available globally as virtual learning activities. So it's not necessary that you travel from one city to another to attend those classes. And we will add more and more to our portfolio of training classes. That said, if you would like to connect with either Arman or myself on LinkedIn, here are our respective QR codes directly going to our respective LinkedIn profiles. Looking at the clock, we have a couple of minutes left, and yes, we do have a couple of questions that I would like to share with you. The first question I would like to address, and this is there a risk of over-regulating and under-innovating? Yes. And I think that we all understand the need for regulations, but we also understand the need for innovation. And especially with, Armand's Swiss hat on and with my German hat on, yes, we do believe that there is some trend within Europe to over-regulate, but at the same time, I don't want to mention particular companies' names, but let's say in this particular case, let's use a name, 23andMe. What happens to your DNA you submitted to them? What happens to your personal data that you submitted to them and shared with them now that they are bankrupt? There is no regulation. So congratulations. If you submitted your DNA samples to this company, consider it in the public domain, including your family. And that is for me the example why, yes, we do need regulations. Regulations might be indeed delaying innovation, but they are not preventing innovation. Then there is another question. Is there also a personal competency certification requirement? No, there is not a requirement yet. And again, I'm pretty sure that as the industry evolves and as AI systems will be more and more prevalent, sooner or later there will be, no, there are already professional certification schemes out there, and sooner or later those professional certification schemes will be sort of kind of a requirement. It's just how things work over time. When I started in the tech industry some 30-something years ago, the concept of the quality manager was there, but there was no requirement to be a certified quality manager. Today, if you want to be working in the quality world and you don't have a professional certification in that domain, forget about it. The same is with CISSP. Many, many years ago, that certification did not exist. But sooner or later, that was more and more getting to be a requirement in particular jobs. So don't be surprised that sooner or later we will have something like that in the AI world as well. And here is now a question for Aman. And I read the question. Is this program a certification program, or is it a verification/validation program? Aman?
So in the end, this is the beauty of today's dynamic world that we are in. We can tailor toward the need. So if you require verification, validation by the help of technical third party, we are available for you. If for any reason you need a certificate label because of a B2B requirement to testify or certify your capabilities, again, that is also included. Of course, in the end, we believe that soon these will to also converge to globally acceptable or globally recognized certification programs, which includes, of course, validation and verification as part of the certification journey.
And then there is a very technical question. I don't know. So I definitely cannot answer that, but Aman, perhaps you can answer that. How can AI erase watermarks on images, and how can that be detected?
Well, so speaking of some regulations, for example, when I refer to the EU AI Act, so they actually require such watermarks that was generated by AI if the the generated contents are gonna be misleading. For example, if I generate kind of realistic image of President Trump somewhere that may imply some concepts, I have to put that. So this is what law expects. At least I'm talking again about the strict requirements of EU AI Act. If you are generating a content that is obvious, that it's not real, a cat walking on the moon playing soccer or football, there is no need, because it's obvious from the context that this has been generated by AI. But if you are asking at how we can technically use AI to erase watermarks, if there is a provider for that solution, well, there might be. I think AI computer vision techniques are already capable of getting trained on watermarks and remove that and replace the missing pixels with the same background contents that you see. Well, I assume that that would be against law, and I don't like to have it. Even though sometimes I'm irritated by the fact that my photos taken and then edited by my very nice phone, then I edit and then it's watermark made by AI. I'm a little bit annoyed, but I'm living with that.
Wasn't there a case where pictures were used to train AIs to identify, I don't know, horses or something like that? And it then turned out that it was, boats, I believe, boats and ships. And then it was not able to really identify them if they were not on a lake or the ocean because the blue thing was missing. And then it turned out that it didn't really learn the shape of boats and ships, but it really identified watermarks that were in those pictures that were being trained. So maybe that is one way to identify whether pictures were watermarked or not.
And that's maybe why we need explainability to understand how AI learned some decisions.
Yes.
Do I learn the right elements or not? Yes,
and
exactly.
Traceability of the data. Where is the training set coming from? Is it coming from a reputable source? That said, thank you very, very much for your time, Arman. Looking forward to see you next week in Delhi at the SC42 meeting, where you and I will be meeting in person again. And thank you very much for the audience. Thank you very much for your time, and looking forward to welcome you to the next SGS webinar that we will have in due course. That said, have a great and wonderful rest of the day, and take care. Bye-bye.